Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of the Sexy Thyroid Solution. I'm your host, Angela Brown. So today I want to talk about birth control pill and its effect on the thyroid. I get asked about this quite often, so I thought this would be a really good time to do a video on this. But if you could do me a really big favor, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And then that little bell you're going to hit so you get a notification every Thursday when I release a new video. And then if you're watching this on my other channels, share this information with someone who may benefit from this. So let's go ahead and start talking about this. So I get asked about this quite often. I kind of went through some of this myself actually when I was on birth control pill, when I came off birth control pill, and the connection to the thyroid. I didn't know it at the time, but I started learning more about it as the years went on, especially after I got certified in FDN. I started learning that there is quite a connection there, and I already had hypothyroidism, so that didn't really help any of it. So what I want to talk first about is what hypothyroidism is and what Hashimoto's is, because that's a little bit important information to understand before I dive into this conversation with birth control pill and the connection. So hypothyroidism is basically, it's a slow thyroid. It is your thyroid is not functioning properly. It could be the thyroid gland itself. It could be that the hormones are not properly working. That's T3 and T4 are your most important ones. There's a lot of reasons why your thyroid could not be functioning properly. And then Hashimoto's is the autoimmune side of it. So that basically means that your body thinks your thyroid is a foreign invader, that it's not supposed to be there. And it launches, and they call it an autoimmune response. So they call it Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And it's just basically, like I said, your body just thinks it shouldn't be there. So it starts attacking it. So there's a lot of reasons why that can happen. But I want to kind of preface that and give you that information because this will make more sense when I start talking about some of the effects that happen from birth control pill. So what's some of the big things that can happen with taking birth control pill? Unfortunately, there's a ton of women that take this. And, you know, there's a time and place for it. Yes, I do understand some of the reasonings, but at the same time, the long-term effects are just not the best. So I am very cautious when people are taking it to really, really work with your practitioner very closely if you are taking it or you're wanting to come off of it. One of the things to keep in mind, this is synthetic. It is a synthetic medication. It is very inflammatory. When you have thyroiditis, like something like Hashimoto's, you're already inflamed. You're in an inflammatory autoimmune response. So taking something like birth control pill can be extremely inflammatory and just feed off of that and make that cycle even worse. And it also, in turn, because of that, that can contribute to immune dysfunction. So if you have straight hypothyroidism, some people end up moving into something like Hashimoto's. They end up launching an autoimmune response. So they now create this Hashimoto's scenario just because of being on birth control pill. And again, Hashimoto's is when your body attacks your own thyroid. It thinks it shouldn't be there. So this happens a lot when you're taking something like birth control pill because the birth control pill is, like I said, it's synthetic and inflammatory. So your body starts creating more of an inflammatory autoimmune response that just contributes to developing Hashimoto's. Keep in mind, 90% of the people that have hypothyroidism actually have Hashimoto's. That is a really, really large number. The other factor to also keep in mind with birth control pill is it can create a scenario of something called leaky gut. I'm sure you've probably heard of this. It's a common thing out there now to be talked about. You can Google it. You can find it anywhere, all about leaky gut. Basically, long story short, leaky gut is exactly how it sounds. There's particles that kind of leak through. You have these little junctions that are supposed to be closed, and what happens is they widen out basically in the food particles that should not be going there from your intestinal tract actually leak out. That is an inflammatory response. Your body is not going to like that. And a lot of times that can happen from a birth control pill. Now, it can happen from so many other things, but birth control pill is one of the reasons it can. Again, that's an inflammatory response. That's an autoimmune response, and it just contributes to Hashimoto's. And a lot of people that have Hashimoto's actually do have leaky gut, and that's because there's a lot of inflammation going on. And so there's always a connection with that inflammation and autoimmune response. So why is this so important when we start talking about gut health, especially with the connection with thyroid and birth control? So you need conversion to happen of your inactive T4 to your active T3. You actually need that to happen in your gut. You need some in liver as well. About 20% of it actually happens in the gut. A very large percentage actually happens in the liver, but you need that conversion happening there because you don't make enough T3. You only make about 20% active T3. So you need this conversion to happen. If the gut is ticked off, if the gut is inflamed, it's not in a happy state, or your liver is really, really taxed, which again, liver is going to be taxed because you're putting synthetic medication in it. It has to go through the liver. All medication has to go through the liver. So if it's those things are constantly getting taxed and are not in a really, really good state because you are on hormonal birth control, you're going to have issues with conversion. When you have hypothyroidism, you already have those issues typically. So you're just adding fuel to the fire. The other thing that can also happen with birth control usage is you get a lot of nutrient deficiencies. Things like B6, B12, selenium, folate, zinc, those are all really, really important nutrients that you need, and those become very, very deficient, especially something like selenium. Selenium is really needed for thyroid hormone conversion. It's one of the biggest ones that you need for that, and it becomes very deficient. And almost everyone that I've worked with, I will see a pretty large deficiency in selenium. Like when we do hair tissue mineral analysis, I'll see that deficiency on there pretty often. So what ends up happening is you just get this vicious cycle. It's a constant cycle. So the gut's inflamed for numerous reasons. Then you add birth control pill to it, which adds fuel to the fire. Thyroid's not already working right. Now you get a scenario where, well, now the thyroid's not working right. It's really, really sluggish. So other things that happen, you get low stomach acid. You can get low gallbladder function. You get slow movement of your digestive tract. So all these things start happening because of hypothyroidism, and they just create a vicious cycle where that makes the hypothyroidism worse. And I've talked about this before where, hypothyroidism can cause some gut issues, and gut issues can cause hypothyroidism. There's a big connection there. So you really have to assess and address both of them. They kind of go hand in hand. So this is how women, when they have a slow thyroid, they can actually get gut issues because of some of the things that I mentioned. And then why women on birth control can actually have both. You deal with hypothyroidism, all these gut issues, they're so closely connected. The other thing to also keep in mind is birth control pill is very, very commonly can raise thyroid binding globulin. Think about binding. Thyroid binding globulin, it binds to your thyroid hormone. That means there's less thyroid hormone floating around that you can actually utilize. Just another reason why you can get a really slow thyroid just from taking birth control, because it's going to bind up the actually thyroid hormone that you need because the binding globulin is too high. And again, I mentioned how it can be inflammatory. Anytime there's inflammation, there's going to be a stress response. Your adrenals will launch cortisol and all those things that your body thinks it's in a fight or flight mode. So keep all those things in mind. I, again, work very closely with a practitioner if you are on birth control or you ever want to go off of it. I never suggest going off of it cold turkey. You have to work with your doctor on that. But just keep those in mind if you are struggling with hypothyroidism and you are on birth control. Those are some of the things to kind of keep in mind and maybe start assessing and addressing what you should do next with those. So I have a question for you too. I would love to know if you've ever struggled with this. I personally did myself. I had a really, really bad bout of gut stuff and so many inflammatory things going on when I was taking birth control, and my thyroid was already sluggish. It was not a fun time. So I'd love to know if you struggle with this as well. I hope this information helped you. If you have any questions, you definitely know where you can find me. Reach out. Again, let me know if you've ever struggled with this yourself. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, I'd love if you would subscribe to my channel and then share this information with someone who would benefit if you're watching this on my other channels. So hope you guys have an amazing day. Bye.